Hey everyone! Before we get started learning more about UPenn supplemental essays, we wanted to let you know that with your free CollegeVine account, you can get fast feedback on your college essay with our peer essay review. You'll receive detailed inline edits and actionable steps to improve your essay. If you want to become a better writer, you can also review another student's essay. Visit the link in the description below to sign up and review or submit an essay today.
So the first prompt asks, how did you discover your intellectual and academic interests, and how will you explore them at the University of Pennsylvania? Please respond considering the specific undergraduate school you have selected, 300 to 450 words. And then under that, it states, for students applying to the coordinated dual degree and specialized programs, please answer these questions in regard to your single degree choice school. Your interest in the coordinated dual degree or specialized program may be addressed through a program-specific essay. So as I mentioned, if you're applying to a program like Huntsman or M&T, and I'm not super familiar, like Penn has very specialized programs, Viper is another one, but if you are applying to those specialized programs, you are going to want to center your interest in that program through those essays. This instead asks you to respond with your single degree school choice. And so if any of you have questions about that, please feel free to leave it in the chat and I will answer as best as I can. But for those of you applying to nursing, the college, engineering, oh my God, what's the other school? Nursing, Wharton. You just want to talk about the single degree school choice. Okay. So what is this prompt really asking? Let's break it down. It asks, how did you discover your intellectual and academic interests? And what that means is really like, what are you passionate and curious about? And why are you passionate and curious about these things? How did you discover this intellectual or academic interest? So some things to think about here are like, when was the first time that these are just questions to get you thinking about what to write about and how to approach it, but there's no like formula. But I would encourage you to ask yourself, like, when was the first time I discovered my passion for whatever it is? And what makes me passionate about this? And what do I want admissions officers, because you might have a lot of passions, but like what is it that you want admissions officers to know about you and your academic trajectory? And then it asks you, how will you explore your intellectual and academic interests at the University of Pennsylvania? So what that's asking you is really like, through what courses, research, or work study opportunities, this essay, you want to center more academic oriented work, but I think really you can talk about courses and then maybe go into research or work study opportunities if they're applicable. But again, you really want to prioritize academia because the second essay is more community oriented. So anyway, it's asking you, how will you explore your passions and interests at Penn? And then why? Why are you drawn to these ways of doing so? Even though it doesn't ask you like, and why, I think that's always a subtext, because you don't just want to write like, I'm going to pursue my interest in creative nonfiction writing through Creative Nonfiction Writing 101. It's like, why specifically that course? Is there something in the syllabus that you're drawn to? So you always want to focus on not just the what, but why. And this essay is really a why Penn essay. The admissions officers want to discern if you really want to attend Penn and if you know why you want to attend Penn, or if it's just another school on your list. So that requires you to have a deep and specific knowledge of what, and I don't think they really expect you necessarily to know exactly like what you are going to do on campus in the way that someone does who's already there, but to have an idea of the communities that you want to be involved in, and for this essay specifically, courses that you're drawn to, that there are avenues for you to pursue your academic interests is really important. And also why Penn? Because there are many schools that offer similar opportunities to Penn, but they want to ensure that you as an applicant are very clear about why Penn, and again, I will touch on this later in the presentation, and you don't want to compare schools, like you don't want to compare Penn to other schools, but it is important to foreground why specifically you want to study what you want to study at Penn and not another school. And then Penn asks you to frame your response around the specific school or program that you're applying to. So what that means is your essay should center and really touch on opportunities through the school that you intend to attend. So if you're applying to the College of Arts and Sciences, you don't want to be talking about courses in Wharton, or you don't want to be talking, I mean, I guess you can touch on clubs in this essay, but you don't want to prioritize talking about clubs. And this is something I've seen students do a few times. So you really want to focus on courses or academic opportunities that are relevant to the school that you are applying to. Okay. And as I mentioned, this essay, you should really be about academics. The second essay will give you more of an opportunity to discuss how you want to contribute to the community at Penn and what you intend to glean from the communities at Penn. But this essay specifically should talk about where you see yourself academically at the school, why you're drawn to academics at Penn. So what are admissions officers looking to find out from reading this essay? They want to know if an applicant is driven and intellectually curious. They want to know if an applicant can articulate why they are passionate about their intellectual interests. And that looks like not just saying, for example, I am passionate about psychology because I don't know, reason that can be vague, applicable to anyone. They want to know why specifically you are drawn to a field of study, or I suppose why you're drawn to a major, a field of study, and they need to be able to see that you can articulate that to yourself and then, to them as well. And then an admissions officer wants to make sure that you will actually be able to pursue your academic interests at Penn. So if you want to study, I don't know, like if you want to study photography and that is your major, that is your passion, but there isn't a really strong photography program at Penn, they might not understand why Penn is a good fit for you. And I don't think Penn has a super strong photography program, but don't quote me on that. I'm just using it as an example. But if there is not if your academic interests don't align with what Penn has to offer, they probably will not, or will be uncertain about accepting you. So it's important that your academic interests are aligned with Penn and what Penn has to offer, and that's communicated in your essay. And they want to know, does this applicant have a nuanced and accurate idea of how they want to pursue their academic interests at Penn? So it's a lot of people apply to Penn to study, or they apply to Wharton. And if you were to say, like, I want to study business, that's valid, but why at Wharton? Why not at Haas, at Berkeley? Like, why specifically Wharton? And they want to ensure, again, that you have a nuanced idea of that and an accurate idea, which means specificity and not making assumptions, knowing the program that you're applying to, having an understanding of what you want to contribute to it and what you believe that you would get out of it. So this is a sample excerpt, and I'm going to just break down what works about it and how it answers the prompt. Again, it's not the entire essay, so this is just an excerpt, but I will go through what about this accurately and productively, how it responds to the prompt. So as we can see here, it says, as someone eager to learn about what experiences create or diminish empathy in individuals, I'm drawn to Angela Duckworth's course, Positive Psychology. Through this class, I would have the opportunity to explore how traumatic events can either manifest as post-traumatic growth or post-traumatic stress, and presumably examine the correlation between stress, growth, and empathy. Furthermore, Duckworth regularly assigns literature pieces to illuminate the psychology concepts taught in class, which would allow me to explore the intersection of my two passions, psychology and writing. I would be enthusiastic to contemplate critical questions that arise at the unique juncture of evidence-based psychology and literature, as it would let me study the human soul through mutually beneficial and interrelated disciplines. So let's look at this excerpt and relate it back to the prompt, because oftentimes I think one of the most common mistakes I see students make in supplement essays, and I've read a lot of Penn essays, so with Penn essays, is that they don't always answer the prompt. And I think it's really helpful to always have our writing be able to connect it to the prompt and see, okay, here's what the prompts ask, and this is where in my essay I'm answering that question. Okay. So breaking down this excerpt. As someone eager to learn about what experiences create or diminish empathy in individuals, I'm drawn to Angela Duckworth's course, Positive Psychology. So here we clearly see the applicant's intellectual interest. And maybe earlier in the essay, they write about why they're interested in studying that specifically. But we're able to gauge their intellectual interests, and then we see that it's connected to Penn. We see a connection between how they're going to, or like what they're passionate about, and how Penn is going to allow them to pursue it and study it. Then we have, through this class, I would have the opportunity to explore how traumatic events can either manifest as post-traumatic growth, post-traumatic stress, and presumably examine the correlation between stress, growth, and empathy. So then the applicant demonstrates how they would want to explore this interest at Penn and why. This is specific to Penn. I read a lot of essays where the applicant will simply state, like, I'm interested in Angela Duckworth's, I don't know, I'm interested in positive psychology, and Penn has a strong positive psychology program. But this really goes a step further and talks about what specifically in a course you would want to study. Why positive psychology at Penn? There are other colleges that have positive psych classes and positive, like other ways to study. There are other ways to study positive psychology. So why specifically do you want to study it with Angela Duckworth at Penn? And this gives a very nuanced reason as to why this applicant does. And then go on to write, furthermore, Duckworth regularly assigns literature pieces to illuminate the psychology concepts taught in class, allowing me to explore the intersection of my two passions, psychology and writing. I'd be enthusiastic to contemplate critical questions that arise at unique juncture. Yes, we read it. Okay. So here, the applicant really conveys how their individualized area of study would be uniquely met by an academic opportunity at Penn. And it's both, not just because let's just assume that this applicant is talking, their intellectual interests are psychology and writing. Here, they are tied together through one course, and we see an avenue in which they would be able to pursue both, which is, I think, it shows how their academic interests would be, again, uniquely met by an opportunity at Penn. And With Penn essays, a lot of applicants will say like, I'm drawn to Penn because of interdisciplinary learning. And that's totally valid. That's something Penn has to offer. But I think what is strong about this example is the applicant conveys that, but they do it without saying, because, you know, all these admissions officers are probably reading, I'm interested in Penn for interdisciplinary learning. But this applicant is able to do that. You can see intersection of psychology and writing. Here is the way I would be able to pursue that, but they're not explicitly saying, I want to go to Penn because interdisciplinarity is important to me. Instead, it's conveyed through an example, and the reader is able to come to that conclusion on their own.